Welcome back, guys. We are in 1805 now. This is the Battle of Austerlitz. I think this is like an earlier epic history video, but we're still following the chronological order. Glad you're here. Let's just jump into it, shall we? We got a lot to unpack here. Actually, it's a shorter video, but glad you're here with me. Let go.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration, supported by our sponsor, The Great Courses Plus. In
Oh yeah, he's emperor now. He's an emperor, and he crowned himself.
December 1804, in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French.
And what's not talked about, which is, I mean, it's not a big deal comparatively, but you can also see kneeling right there is Empress Josephine.
Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French. Europe had never...
Which is interesting because it's not a monarchy, but it's as close as you're going to get as to a monarchy.
...seen such a sudden and dramatic rise to power. A son of impoverished Corsican nobility to military dictator of France in little more than 10 years.
Did he deserve it?
Revolution
I think so.
and war had cleared Napoleon's path to the throne. War would dominate his 10-year reign. A conflict unprecedented in history that would leave millions dead and a continent in turmoil.
Here we go. We've already had 2 coalitions. It's got to be the third one coming up.
8 months after Napoleon's coronation, the French Empire and its Spanish ally were at war with Britain, and Napoleon had assembled an army of 180,000 men along the Channel coast.
Oh my, look at that. It says corps now. You see that? You guys can't really see it. It says corps, like his people around him. So it's not divisions, they're corps now, which is something that he implemented.
But as long as the British Royal Navy ruled the seas, invasion was impossible. But nor could Britain challenge France on land. And so British Prime Minister William Pitt tried to build a European coalition against Napoleon, using diplomacy and gold.
Gold works.
Britain would prove Napoleon's most steadfast enemy, and its press delighted in relentless mockery of the French Emperor.
That's why we believe that he was so short, because of the British propaganda.
Britain and France were old rivals in Europe and overseas. But now, Pitt feared Napoleon's conquests had made France too powerful. The French Emperor had to be defeated, and Europe's balance of power restored if there was ever to be lasting peace. Pitt found willing allies in Europe, among monarchs who despised Napoleon as a product of the French Revolution and a dangerous threat to the existing order.
And see, they're all monarchs, and I just spoke that emperorship is not really republic and democracy, but these are monarchs that have despised what's going on in France since the revolution, because they overthrew a monarch, and these are all monarchs, so they're not happy with the situation going on in France. Plus, they really don't like Napoleon, so what a reason to go to war.
Austria harboured the deepest grievances, having seen her influence in Germany and Italy steadily eroded by French victories.
Yeah.
The final straw came in May 1804, when Napoleon had also crowned himself King of Italy in Milan. Austria?
I mean, he did win that region twice, not once, but twice he won that region through conquest.
Russia, Sweden, and Naples joined Britain in an alliance known as the Third Coalition.
I know about Britain and Austria and Russia really being part of this coalition. I don't know too much about Sweden or Naples. Naples even used to Naples even got persuaded not to rejoin the first coalition around that like 1796 or whenever that happened. So interesting.
And devised an ambitious plan for a series of joint offensives against France. The main attack would be made by a combined Austro-Russian army, advancing across the Rhine into France.
Okay.
But Napoleon got word of their plans and reacted with typical speed and decision. He was determined to strike first, before the Allies could join forces, and ordered his army, now renamed La Grande Armée, to march to the River Rhine. His target was the Austrian army of General Mack, which had made a premature advance against Bavaria, a French ally, and was now dangerously isolated from the other Allied armies. Napoleon ordered Marshal Murat, his famously flamboyant cavalry commander, to make feigned attacks through the Black Forest, while the rest of his army, advancing at speed, enveloped Mack's army from the north.
Okay.
That summer, Napoleon's Grande Armée was at its most formidable. Well-trained, highly motivated, its regiments at full strength. What's more, it had been newly reorganized according to the corps system, later imitated by virtually every army in the world. Each corps, commanded by a marshal, was a mini-army of 15 to 30,000 soldiers, with its own infantry, cavalry, artillery, and supporting arms.
And all these names we recognize, really, most of them at least. And this is just an organized army at this point.
Such as reconnaissance, engineers, and transport. This meant each corps could march and fight for a limited time independently, allowing Napoleon to break with the old doctrine of keeping his army concentrated and advance with his corps widely dispersed. This helped to disguise his real objective and increased movement speed, because the army could advance along multiple roads and live off the land, taking its supplies from scattered villages.
Live off the land means plunder,
rather than relying on slow-moving supply wagons. When the enemy's main force was located, the army could quickly concentrate for battle. This is how Napoleon's army was able to move at a speed that often surprised and disorientated his enemies. Mack didn't realize the danger he was in until it was too late. Napoleon's fast-moving corps crossed the Danube behind him and surrounded his army. Mack launched a series of poorly coordinated counterattacks, but despite some desperate fighting, the Austrians couldn't break out of the trap.
So immediately y'all lose a battle right up the get for the Third Coalition. Like, Napoleon's 2-0. 2-0 against the coalitions, and now, whereas this is how the Third Coalition begins.
Mack hoped that Kutuzov's Russian army could arrive in time to save him, but the Russians were still 160 miles away.
Not getting there.
And so, at Ulm, on the 19th of October, just 6 weeks into the war, Mack surrendered his army to Napoleon.
God dang!
The French took nearly 60,000 Austrian prisoners.
You know the Austrian Emperor is pissed.
And Napoleon had struck his first devastating blow against the coalition. Russian General Mikhail Kutuzov was an experienced and wary commander, more cautious than Mack. His army was exhausted after its 900-mile march from Russia.
Jeez.
But hearing of the Austrians' surrender at Ulm, and knowing he wasn't strong enough to face Napoleon alone, he immediately ordered a retreat.
To Vienna?
Napoleon pursued.
Whoa.
The Russians fought several sharp rearguard actions, but could not save the Austrian capital, Vienna.
Dang! Y'all already in Vienna? This is moving quick.
Which the French occupied on the 12th of October. Kutuzov slipped away to Olmütz in today's Czech Republic, where he was joined by reinforcements, as well as Emperor Alexander of Russia and Emperor Francis of Austria in person. Napoleon was furious that Kutuzov had escaped. By now his army was also exhausted, and far from home, with winter approaching. He needed to force a decisive battle quickly. Fortunately for him, the overconfident 27-year-old Russian emperor
So many young individuals in all of this.
sought the glory of battle, overriding the concerns of his veteran commander, General Kutuzov. With the Allied army closing in, Napoleon ordered his corps to rapidly concentrate on a battlefield he had carefully selected, near the town of Austerlitz. Napoleon oversaw the dispositions of his army late into the night, then grabbed a few hours' sleep beside a campfire. Dawn would mark the first anniversary of his coronation as emperor, and promised a battle that would make or break his young empire.
Let us finish this war. A thunderclap.
The morning of the 2nd of December
It's
1805
foggy.
was cold and bright, with a heavy mist. Two armies of near equal size faced each other across a 7-mile-wide battlefield.
That's a huge battlefield.
But the Allies held the high ground of the Pratzen Heights, while French Third Corps under Marshal Davout was still marching to the battlefield.
Now, in Napoleonic fashion, they would fight one then fight the other. What does he do?
Seeing Napoleon's thinly stretched right flank, the Allies planned a large-scale attack from the Pratzen Heights to steamroller the French right, before swinging round to envelop Napoleon's army.
Little do they know, they got a corps that's going to be a little late coming in.
Little did they know, Napoleon was counting on his weak right wing luring the Allies into just such a move, whereupon he would launch his own attack on the Pratzen Heights to cut the Allied army in half. His bold plan relied on his correct prediction of Allied movements, the speedy arrival of Davout's Third Corps on his right, and a perfectly timed counterattack.
I mean, when you're like someone like Napoleon, like, you study military movements. Like, he is like a student. He's not a brute. He's so smart. He's smart. And I'm not just glazing here. I'm just being honest. Like, he is a smart commander-in-chief at this point.
The battle began around 7 a.m. as Austrian troops of General Kienmayer's advance guard clashed with French troops defending the village of Telnitz. In the face of overwhelming odds, the French fought stubbornly and bravely, but gradually they were forced back. But the Allies, instead of carrying out their great enveloping attack, did nothing.
Uh-oh.
The morning mist and the late arrival of orders had led to confusion and delay, and it was another hour before the first 3 Allied columns were on the move.
Which actually doesn't help them, because now the delay in Davout's corps is going to time up with them, right?
Soon, fierce fighting erupted around Sokolnitz village and castle. Marshal Davout's corps, which had just force-marched 70 miles in 2 days, now arrived to strengthen the French right wing. Around 9 a.m, his lead infantry brigade appeared suddenly through the mist and retook Telnitz, before being driven back in turn by Austrian hussars. 2 more of Davout's brigades reinforced French troops at Sokolnitz. As the mist began to clear, Napoleon saw that, as he'd hoped, the Allied left was moving off the Pratzen Heights, and he ordered Marshal Soult's 4th Corps to begin its attack. To the alarm of Allied commanders, 2 French infantry divisions, until now hidden by the mist, were suddenly seen advancing straight towards the Allied centre.
Did they not give an idea to the not the marshals, to the people on the Allied side? Did they not understand that there's probably a bunch of people just waiting for this? Like, come on, can y'all not anticipate anything?
General Kutuzov was forced to hurriedly organize a defense of the heights, using troops of 4 column. 2 hours of bloody fighting followed. Musket fire was so rapid and furious that both sides were soon low on ammunition.
I love these paintings or drawings that we've seen throughout these series. It just really shows, like, because you probably had firsthand accounts talk to these artists, or you might even have like a person that was in the battle that was also an artist. So well done by who have done these continuously.
And turned to the bayonet. By 11 AM, the French, with the advantage in training and discipline, had secured the heights and driven a deep wedge into the Allied position. To the north, a giant cavalry battle developed. While a Russian force from General Bagration's advance guard captured the village of Bosenitz, before it was halted by cannon fire from the Santon Hill. A decisive charge by 6 regiments of French heavy cavalry finally drove back the Allies, allowing Marshal Lannes' 5 Corps to move forward and seize Blasowitz and Krug.
The one thing you just gotta keep remembering, and look at all these cities and towns right here, and the geography right here. 7-mile wide battlefield. It is just so much going on. The organization. Now think about it. If he was to do this by division versus corps, things would have to be so bureaucratically decided across the entire army. But because he developed his army into corps here, gives them autonomy to fight within their marshals, with Napoleon being kind of like the high set authority. But yeah.
Now, Grand Duke Constantine, commanding the Russian Imperial Guard, led forward this last Allied reserve in a desperate bid to reclaim the Pratzen Heights. A battalion of the French 4th Line Regiment was charged down by Russian Guard cavalry, losing its Eagle standard in bloody fighting. Napoleon, who'd moved up to the heights, sent in his own Guard cavalry. In this grim melee between the elite horsemen of both armies, the French finally prevailed.
But they were fresh troops against troops that... The only thing I will say here, with a grain of salt, is it wasn't an even match. They had already fought. But
Napoleon had broken the Allied centre. Now, to close the trap on the Allied left wing, still locked in heavy fighting around Sokolnitz. Around 2 PM, Napoleon ordered 4 divisions to swing south and cut off their retreat.
they're going to surrender.
General Buxhowden, commanding the Allied left, only now saw the danger he was in. Attacked from 3 sides, the only escape was south. Many of his troops were forced to flee across frozen ponds. French artillery opened fire, trying to smash the ice with their cannonballs.
This is what you see in the movie.
About 200 men and dozens of horses drowned in the freezing water. But not the many thousands of Napoleon's propaganda.
History is written by the victor, so you get what you get here.
The French Emperor had won a brilliant victory. His army had taken more than 10,000 prisoners and captured 45 enemy standards.
And this is even, like, at the beginning, he captured 60,000.
Thousands of dead and wounded of all sides littered the battlefield. Many left untended for days.
Wow.
The Battle of the Three Emperors, as it became known, was a crushing blow to the Third Coalition. As Russian forces retreated back to Russia, Francis I of Austria was forced to accept a humiliating settlement with France, agreeing to pay a 40 million franc indemnity.
Wait, what happened? Okay, so the Treaty of Pressburg Tyrol to Bavaria, to the county Tyrol, I'm guessing, to Bavaria. Veneto to Kingdom of Italy, which was annexed at this, or not annexed, they were kind of an ally, I guess, kind of a vassal state, maybe. But the king, who's the king of Italy right now? Uh, Napoleon. Istria to the Kingdom of Italy, and now we're in the Balkans almost with Dalmatia to the Kingdom of Italy. What else?
And give up more territory in exchange for peace.
Look at that. That's crazy.
But meanwhile, news had reached Napoleon of a disastrous Franco-Spanish defeat at sea, off Cape Trafalgar.
Mr. Nelson.
British Admiral Lord Nelson, at the cost of his own life, had masterminded a victory so complete that it ensured British naval dominance, not just for the rest of the war, but for the next 100 years.
And I mean, we saw Horatio do this at Cape St. Vincent. We saw him do this in the battle. What was it? Well, we'll just say off Egypt. Forget the bay, but Abukar, something like that. But anyway, Nelson's a household legend in British lore. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about the Battle of Trafalgar. It might be, we might watch that next. We'll just see. We'll see what's on the chronological thing. Yeah, we got to watch it next.
Britain, master of the sea. Napoleon, unbeatable on land. The whale and the elephant, neither able to challenge the other in its own domain.
The whale and the elephant's pretty good. That's a pretty good
When
one.
William Pitt received news of Napoleon's victory at Austerlitz, he's supposed to have said, "Roll up that map of Europe. It will not be wanted these 10 years." A month later, Pitt was dead. But his warning that Europe faced another 10 years of war and upheaval was to prove prophetic.
What a video, guys. That was a quick video, I think, compared to the others, but at the same time, we got a lot. We understood what's going on, and we really got to figure out the Battle of Trafalgar here. I wonder if Epic History has a video on that. I will check myself right after this video ends, but thank you guys so much for watching. This was an interesting third coalition, like in the Battle of the Three Emperors at Austerlitz proved to be something crazy. And you know, in the movie Napoleon, of course, starring Joaquin Phoenix, you see kind of this battle take place where in Austerlitz they have this, huge retreat, and you feel like they're kind of evenly matched, but continuously Napoleon just proves himself on and off the battlefield, politically and militarily. So we'll keep this going. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. Leave a video recommendation or something down below. Peace out. Bye-bye.